Transmitting from the beating heart of Las Vegas, it's a dry heat. This is City of Writers Radio, a weekly podcast celebrating the oral delivery of the written word. Now here's your host, Guilliean Pacheco of Writeropolis Industries. Let's get to it. It was the same room as yesterday. The day before that, the day before that. One single paned window provided natural light. The sounds of a neural concept of the natural world she had plugged into her mind contributed background music. No furniture. Amenities were non-existent. Does having a toilet count as an amenity? It wasn't like she needed it. She wasn't even sure where it ended. Is this a life she was living? She couldn't be sure. What was confidence? What was hate? Were these feelings? Was she aware of that? Beyond who she was, what was she? She would touch her skin, different spots, and she knew it was skin. That's what she knew. She walked a lot. It took 847 steps to make a perfect walk of the room. How she discovered numbers was weird too. She knew. If she was on Earth, she knew it was the third planet from the Sun. She remembered the rhyme that identified the planets from elementary school. My very educated mother just sent us 9 pizzas. But Pluto wasn't a planet anymore. Right? How did she know that? What year did that happen? Was it recent, or was it a historical event? She knew what seasons were: summer, winter, spring, and autumn. They happened outside her window. It helped pass the time to identify the changing weather patterns outside. The scars on her hands had healed a long time ago. The blood had dried. It was at least one season ago. The scar tissue was a gentle reminder of her imprisonment because that is what this was. There was no other explanation. She wondered what she did to cause this. Who was holding her captive? Or did she submit herself to a scientific experiment? This was a cruel joke. A test designed by some mad god. She wasn't on Earth anymore, she was in another realm. Several seasons passed before her answers became more questions. Finally, she decided to test the god in charge of her science project. Instead of sleeping, or feigning some semblance of sleep, she forced herself to stay awake. 24 hours with no artificial stimulation. She could do it without much stress on her functions if they were things that needed monitoring. 24 became 48, 48 became 72. Her body functioned well enough to have no physical damage to her body despite the lack of sustenance. On her 96th hour of being awake, the season changed from spring to summer.
Creativity extends beyond words here at City of Writers Radio. Enhance your written words with striking images and sophisticated fonts. Take your projects to the next level with millions of legit products on Creative Market. From concept to design, you can work seamlessly with creative professionals worldwide. Visit writeropolis.com/link in bio, all one word, for a direct link.
She looked up into the sky and knew it was Death Valley. How could she read the sky like that? This must be a continuation of the experiment. The barren environment became a room with no walls. 847 steps put her back at the beginning. She felt the coarse desert sand burning her skin. She examined her feet, she saw no blisters, suffered no damaged skin. The sun went down as she walked step 505 to the salt flats. She looked up and saw the sign demarcating the sea level. She walked away from the signage discovering the perfect spot to leave her mark in the salt. There were no sticks to use as a writing utensil, the rocks were too small to assist. Her foot hovered over the new deposit of salt. What was her name? It concerned her that God had given her consciousness but no personal details. Or he did, and she forgot. What name did she want? She could have any name. God must have given her a word to use. She racked her brain and wrote she. It was a good name. Step 322 brought her to the famous sailing stones of her outdoor prison. She watched as they crawled across the sand, unaided by outside forces. Seeing them defy Newton's first law of motion amused her. It was a chessboard, and he played against the devil for someone's soul. She smiled at the thought that the prize was probably her soul. Well then, who was winning? And if they were winning, what would happen to her story? Why would they choose her eternal soul as the bounty? Step 825 brought her to a tiny town like you would see in an old western. John Wayne, Duke. He was her favorite movie star. Her eyes examined the clapboard signs weathered by the elements. They announced the mercantile, the hotel, the saloon. She went into the pub, and the doors squeaked on their hinges to announce her arrival. The tavern was empty, as she knew it would be. Her eyes traveled upwards to the top shelf of the well-stocked bar. There was a dusty bottle of whiskey. If this were a western, they would have served this bottle to its highfalutin patrons long ago. She nodded to the non-existent barman and scaled the back counter to help herself to the whiskey. She tasted nothing. No familiar burn inching its way down her throat, no warmth in her belly. She poured the contents straight down her gullet. She was unable to perceive her stomach distend from the first drink she had had since her incarceration. Her knee-jerk reaction was to cry and curse her jailer, but instead, she smiled. There wasn't much left to arouse an emotional response.
Are you ready to take back your privacy? File Zero Knowledge, end-to-end encrypted cloud storage lets you securely store all your files, photos, videos, and more. Get a free account now and you'll receive 10 gigabytes of storage. Try File now. Visit Writeropolis.com/link in bio, all one word, for a direct link.
Step 444 brought her to the hotel. Inside, she found a grand piano in the lobby area. Her fingers hovered over the keys, and she began to play For Elise. She was unsure how she knew the song, but her fingers did, and she went along with it. The song ended where it did. Her mind's eye wandered. She took stock of what she was and what she was retaining. She remembered that she was the prize of an unnamed higher power. She decided that she needed to declare a winner. She was fully prepared to grant unconditional surrender. Knowledge of such a catastrophic event would free her from her quarantine. She was confident of that. She spoke the first words she knew from her lips in the tongue that was in her head, "You win." She waited. No burning bush, no parting of a sea, no apocalyptic ending. She made her way to the hotel front desk. In her peripheral vision, she saw the hotel safe. It's irresistible to her. Ice shot through her veins. The safe was designed by a great evil that she wasn't supposed to know. The worn numbers 7 and 2 register in her mind. She instinctively pressed the keys 3 times, 72 72 72. The handle on the face of the safe turned to the right with her machinations. How did she know to touch it that way? The door unsealed as though it were the vault to a great secret. Inside was an envelope bearing her name and a set of keys. She's confused. The first time she encountered the feeling since the beginning of her consciousness. She left the envelope on the counter and exited the building. Something was reaching out to her, but she did not know what.
The daily grind, the news, it's all so boring. But the writer in you wants to roam the world, tell tales, and write poems. Here at Writeropolis Industries, we're all about honesty. It takes a tinge of guidance to tell a damn good story. Find out how to be the best writer you can be in our Belle Lettre newsletter on Friday. Sign up at Writeropolis.com/link in bio, all one word. Get instant access to the repository for relevant resources to rejuvenate your creative journey.
Thanks for joining us this week on the City of Writers Radio podcast with your host, Guilliean Pacheco. Make sure to visit our website at writeropolis.com/podcast, where you can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcatcher, so that you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, If you found value in City of Writers Radio, like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Check out Writeropolis Industries for all your writing and editing needs. Be sure to tune in next week for another generous helping of creativity to nourish your soul. Until then, love, peace, and adobo grease.